All right, I might just kick off. So welcome to everyone joining us today. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Bidjigal people as the traditional custodians of the land I'm joining from today, and pay my deep respects to Bidjigal elders past and present. Traditional custodians of this land that I'm joining from have always been the teachers, the knowledge sharers, and that continues today. And I honor the enduring physical and spiritual connection of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to this land, the water, sky, and community. I also extend that respect, of course, to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are with us today on Zoom. My name is Armine Nalbandian. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the CEO of the Center for Social Impact. And for almost 2 decades, the Center for Social Impact has worked alongside charities, social enterprises, government, business, and philanthropy to strengthen the foundations of social change in Australia through research, education, and engagement. We are absolutely delighted that you have all joined us today for this webinar on how you might think about our social impact scholarships. You're going to hear directly from our students and alumni around the country, and we're going to provide clear guidance on the application process, as well as give you a chance to ask any questions you might have about the postgraduate scholarship programs. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by 4 very inspiring alumni and scholars of the Center for Social Impact who were once just like you and were considering applying for a program or a scholarship to deepen their expertise in social impact. So we'll hear from Kimberly Peckham, who is a CSI UNSW student scholar, Aidan Date from CSI UWA as an alum, Deanna Newchurch from CSI Flinders, who's also an alumni scholar, and Alice Leake, CSI Swinburne student scholar as well. So we're also joined by members of our leading education staff from across the CSI network. In case you have specific questions about a particular university program, they're here to help answer those questions. We have Vanessa Schilt from CSI UNSW, Professor Paul Flatow from CSI UWA, Sandra Robinson from CSI Flinders, and Susan Pizzati from CSI Swinburne. So they'll help us navigate any of those specific questions that might come up during the session. Feel free, of course, to pop those in the chat. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. So if you have thoughts or you, again, have questions in the chat, please just pop them in as we go. And we've actually extended our Q&A by 15 minutes today, thanks to the incredible response we've received. A lot of people interested in applying for the program, and we want to make sure we actually get to all of your questions. If for some reason we don't get to all of your questions, we'll absolutely send out some follow-up resources after the webinar, and we'll do our best to provide answers through a frequently asked questions portal. Now let's get started. First, I'd like to make the very exciting announcement that applications for our 2026 Social Impact Scholarships are now officially open. This year, the Center for Social Impact is offering a total of $100,000 in scholarships to support passionate changemakers seeking to advance their education in social impact. This program is made possible thanks to the generosity of our supporters, and I want to extend a particular heartfelt thank you to the AMP Foundation for their ongoing commitment to social impact and for helping fund part of this year's scholarships through their support of CSI's Professor Peter Shergold Social Impact Fund. Now, these scholarships are designed exclusively to support postgraduate study in either the Graduate Certificate in Social Impact or the MBA in Social Impact at one of our 4 partner universities, UNSW, UWA, Swinburne, and Flinders. And as you'll hear from our alumni today, these scholarships can be really life-changing. They definitely open doors to possibility, and I think give purpose-driven people the tools, the confidence, and the community, importantly, to turn their vision for change into something very tangible and lasting. So to bring that to life, I'd like to introduce someone who's experienced this impact firsthand. Kimberly Peckham, who received a scholarship to study the Graduate Certificate in Social Impact at CSI UNSW and is the co-founder of a charity called First Nations Response. Kimberly, can you tell us just a bit about yourself and what the scholarship meant to you?
Sure. Thanks, Alumni. Hi, everyone. My name is Kimberly Peckham, and I'm a proud Wiradjuri and Yampa woman. I was born on Nanama Mission in Wellington, so it's just one of the missions on the outskirts of town. Realistically, this scholarship for me meant that I could continue my studies. Financially, I haven't always been in the best position to take on further study. And at a time when I'm balancing work and further education, it kind of felt out of reach for me. So this opportunity has made that possible. What that did for what the scholarship has specifically done, it's helped lifted that financial barrier. And it's given me the chance to invest in my own growth. So it's really allowed me to deepen my understanding of systems change, social impact frameworks, and how they can be applied in a First Nations context. And this scholarship too, it's more than just financial support. I believe it's actually a way that it's breaking down barriers that many mature age First Nations students do face. Unfortunately, we don't always have the luxury of doing things for ourselves because we're, trying to get by and manage so many other responsibilities. So receiving this scholarship really kind of was that acknowledgement that this work, my perspective and my journey, it really does matter. And it's also validated for me the importance of ensuring that lived experience and community perspectives are brought to the forefront when we're in social impact spaces. Because I feel these can so often be overlooked and it's to our detriment, really. Like, since the essence of it all is, being a collective and humanizing, the processes. So for me, when I reflect on this scholarship, it isn't just about study. It's about strengthening my capacity to contribute and to continue to be a part of creating systems that work better for not just First Nations people, but for all people, nationally and internationally. And, to bring that learning back into every project that I really do have the honor of working on. Thank you.
That's fantastic, Kimberly. I found that story very inspiring. And I think that point around breaking down the barriers that might sort of naturally be there and allowing those with lived experience, importantly, to be able to strengthen their capacity to create the systems they want to see, not just for their immediate communities, but for the wider community as well, is just absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much for sharing that story. Look, as mentioned, these scholarships support study at one of our 4 partner universities where you can choose to complete either the graduate certificate in social impact or the MBA in social impact. Now, one of the great things about these programs is their flexibility. All of them can actually be studied part-time, and most offer online or blended options, which makes it much easier to balance study alongside work and all the other commitments, as Kimberly talked about, that we have naturally in our lives. So many of our students talk about the deep networks they build in the classroom that last well beyond graduation, and that becomes a powerful part of their professional journey. So whether you're doing that full-time or part-time, you'll have the opportunity to do that. Now, as a reminder, we will send through further information at the end of the webinar, which covers off on what I'm going to talk through. So don't stress if you can't read each of the bits of these slides, but we want to walk you through the processes and kind of highlight that they vary across our CSI universities. In terms of time commitment, it definitely varies slightly between universities. For example, if you study full-time at CSI Flinders and you want to do a graduate certificate, you could probably finish that in as little as 3 to 6 months if you go really, really full-time and pack and load. But if you're working full-time, we generally recommend a lighter study load so you can pace yourself and get the most out of the learning experience. I think it would also probably be worthwhile to take a look at what you'll be studying, what areas these programs cover. So the graduate certificate in social impact covers the key foundations of driving meaningful social change. You'll explore areas such as leadership for social impact, demonstrating your social impact, which has a strong focus on outcomes measurement and evaluation, as well as systems thinking, social innovation, social investment, and much more. So would encourage you to take a look at our website, and you can take a look at what the various programs are that each university offers, and sometimes they have slightly different titles and names, but we are generally talking about very similar concepts, and then some universities will have particular electives that you can go into that might be slightly different. So to give you a sense of how these topics translate into real world impact, I'd love to introduce you to our next speaker, Aidan Date from CSI UWA. Aidan completed his graduate certificate at UWA CSI in 2014 and will tell us how the ideas he explored back then continue to shape his career today. Aidan, generally speaking, which of these topics are still useful to your career to this day?
Hey, thanks, Armine. I mean, one answer is all of them, of course, but two in particular come to mind as really important for my career. So the first one I'd say is that sort of evaluation and social impact assessment piece. Going into that unit, it was one of those ones that seemed the most dry, like you're doing the most with Excel spreadsheets and numbers and that kind of thing. And I'm like, I want to change the world. What's all this about? But when you get into it, like how we
Can I please
understand
have yes,
social
number one, and
impact.
also
Ooh, okay. I was like, is that me? Did I just go crazy mid-webinar? But yeah, understanding and communicating social impact and in effect understanding what you're doing is central to like strategy, purpose, execution, advocacy, almost creating this parallel system. We do financial accounting really well, but we don't know how to measure and talk about impact. So numbers, very unsexy on the surface, very sexy when you get a little bit into it. And what this meant for me professionally is I have a background in arts and culture. I'm a theatre performer. And coming out of the grad cert, this was something the whole sector was just not thinking about, period. And I can still remember going into a meeting with the Fremantle Biennale and someone being like, help us, what is an outcome? So I ended up building a career as effectively a solo professional doing evaluation in the arts and cultural sector. And that then kind of led me to probably the other thing that's been really helpful is this idea of social entrepreneurship. So this wasn't a job. No one was doing this. I just sort of saw a gap in the sector I care about and just started going and talking to people. So now continuing that kind of love of arts and culture, I also run a social enterprise, Only the Human. We use comedy and theatre training to help improve people's well-being. And I also do team and leadership development with organisations. So this idea of just having permission, like if you identify a problem, if there's something out there that you care about, the course really gave me the opportunity to just get started. You know, like I think of Anna from Frozen, you know, that song, like just doing the next right thing. Like you have permission to just go and do the next right thing. And the course really gave me the confidence, gave me some of the language to be able to do that. Final thing I'll say, just to reiterate, is again, the value of networks and community. So, I mean, even next week, I'm going to the Pilbara to run some community workshops through my theatre company, and that was literally booked through someone who I met doing the grad cert back in 2014. Jane Harwood, Paul Flatteau, if you're listening. So that's a bit from me, and hey, start building your networks now. I'm going to drop my LinkedIn thing in the chat. Connect with me. I'll be your first Centre for Social Impact person.
Fabulous. That's wonderful. And thank you for that generous offer there. I think, that point around opening doors for you within your existing community. So you're doing sort of different things with the communities you're already in, but then opening new opportunities altogether by giving you the skills to get a social enterprise started and sort of the confidence just to get to that first step is fantastic to hear. I think that's exactly the sort of thing that we're setting our students up for. Now, I will encourage you guys to, again, put your questions in the chat, whether they're for our panelists or for one of our university representatives or for me. Please pop your questions in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. I want to talk about eligibility next, because that is one of the questions that came up quite a bit when you had submitted your questions ahead of this webinar. And in short, the scholarships are open to Australian or New Zealand citizens or permanent residents. You'll need to be commencing or continuing an eligible CSI program. So that would be the grad cert or the MBA in social impact at one of our 4 partner universities, and planning to complete your studies within a maximum of 2 years in the case of the graduate certificate and within a maximum of 6 years for an MBA. So if you're considering enrolling but haven't submitted your university application yet, that's completely fine. We know many of you work in the social and not-for-profit sectors where postgraduate study can be a financial stretch, and that's exactly why these scholarships exist. So in most cases, you just need to have started your university application before applying for a CSI scholarship, I think with the exception of Swinburne University, where you needed to have completed. There's also students who are looking to secure a Commonwealth supported place, or CSP. You're still eligible for a CSI scholarship. You just can't receive a different scholarship for the same program. So you can't be in receipt of another scholarship toward your program of study, but if you have a CSP place, that's not a problem. We're going to put some information about Commonwealth supported places in our chat if you'd like to find out more about that. Further, CSI UNSW in particular also offers additional Indigenous scholarships. So on top of the 100,000 that we talked about, 2026 offerings are actually currently being finalized at CSI UNSW, and details will be added to our CSI scholarships page on our website in the coming weeks. Now, I'm absolutely delighted to introduce you to Deanna Newchurch, a proud First Nations woman from South Australia who is currently a senior project officer at the Lowitja Institute, which focuses on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health research. Deanna, what would you say to someone considering applying for a scholarship and enrolling in the grad cert in social impact?
Yeah, thanks, Harmony. I think, first of all, it's, doing the graduate certificate was really meaningful for me. And I think when I started it, it really helped bring together my lived experience, my community work to date. And, I was able to wrap around some really solid frameworks around my thinking, especially systems change. And I think the course content also helped me realize that I was already leading with a systems lens. It just gave me really, really strong literacy and articulation to understand my own, the value in my own perspective, but how to start embedding that into my work, as well as influence the spaces that I work and move in. And I think, as Aidan mentioned as well, one of the biggest parts, is the people that you're learning alongside as well. And I was with a really great cohort from different sectors, and, making, those connections and developing networks as you're studying is really going to help sort of, navigate further once you're done with this grad cert. And so I think if you're thinking about applying, especially if you're looking at the scholarship, it's, it's obviously a really important and critical financial support, as Kimberly mentioned. And, it does alleviate that sort of inevitable HECS dread that some we already carry through from our undergraduates. But I think the scholarship also acknowledges, the strengths and perspectives you're already bringing in. And, I know for myself, I still hadn't had everything figured out. And I think it's just important to come in with curiosity and just aim to want to connect, what you're learning, or to enhance what you're already doing in your work. And, I think as a Kaurna and Narungga person based in SA as well, I found it especially powerful. It just gave me the space to bring in our ways of knowing, our relational approaches, and our values into systems that really need to shift. And, it gave me really just, more confidence that I needed to really back myself, and also just to back the impact our communities can and should be leading.
Is this the right side, Adelaide?
Oh, sorry.
This side? Oh.
Background noise. I think there we go. I think it's unmuted. All good. So thank you, Deanna. That's absolutely fantastic. And I think that two things that really came out for me. One is that point around curiosity, because that really is the critical point in open mind, kind of meeting people from lots of different walks of life, and also learning and bringing your own learning to the cohort. I think that's a huge part of what these experiences are about. It's not just what you learn in the classroom, but it's actually learning alongside and from and with your colleagues and developing those networks. So absolutely love that. Thank you so much for your input there. So what does the application process actually look like? We'll walk through it step by step and talk about what to expect. Again, this was a question that came up a number of times. So the first and most important step is you need to commence an application. And as I mentioned earlier, in Swinburne's case, you actually need to submit an application to your preferred university course before you are able to apply for the scholarship. But for the others, you just need to commence. Once you've done that, you can start your CSI scholarship application. It takes around 30 minutes to complete, and you can save your progress and come back to it at any time. So there's no rush to do it all in one sitting. Each university has a slightly different set of requirements, as you can see on the slide, along with one or more specific questions you'll need to respond to. Remember, it's not just about what you've done so far, but what your motivations are for the future and how you think postgraduate study in social impact will help you achieve those goals. It's also important to note that these scholarships are not full or cash scholarships. If you're successful, the scholarship amount is applied as a discount against the course fee. So you'll pay the balance of that. You may also be wondering how many scholarships are available and how the funding is allocated. That really depends on the number and strength of applications that comes through. So this differs year to year and university to university. So we have some flexibility in that regard. There are typically more than 10 scholarships awarded each year. Last year, for example, the standard was incredibly high and 20 scholarships were awarded of varying amounts. And in terms of what makes for a successful scholarship application, so people are sort of wondering, what should I be emphasizing? Each of our scholarship recipients are united by a commitment to create sustainable solutions to the root causes of disadvantage, and their stories, I think, are a powerful reminder of the lasting impact of opportunity and philanthropic support. And I think, as you've heard from our students, it really is, people who are really motivated by purpose and want to use the opportunity in order to create change in their communities or in the broader world. So the scholarship's completely merit-based, and it's awarded based on your motivation to create positive social change, alignment with your personal and professional goals, and how you think the scholarship will support your growth and social impact. So finally, I'd like to introduce you to one of our successful scholarship applicants from 2025, Alice Leake. Alice is currently studying with CSI Swinburne and is a landscape architect for Melbourne Council, and she's also a nonprofit board director helping kids at risk access a safe and supported play space. So Alice, how did you make your application stand out, and how has the scholarship rather, helped your career and charitable work?
Hi everyone, I'm Alice, as Amine said. I work at one of the local councils and I just handed in my final assignment, so I am very much excited. I previously studied a double degree in urban design and landscape architecture. I am someone that's probably more passionate about the people rather than the plants, so landscape architects can be either way. I'm a people person, which is why I ended up going onto the board for a local organisation called the Venny, which is a playground for children at risk. I volunteer for them because they give out great wraparound support and social sort of stories across Melbourne, really. And I guess through my normal job, I wanted to get a little bit more. I was drawn to this course, or the social impact course, because of my living overseas and sort of seeing, I guess, as a landscape architect, you design spaces, but you never know what the stories are, that someone enjoys the story and, they want to sit in the park, or they don't want to sit there, or they want to swing on the swings, or they want to play karaoke. So I lived in China for a year, and I guess living over in China was where I sort of was like, oh, there's so many opportunities, so many opportunities to get more impact into our public realm. With regards to my application, what I actually did was something a little bit different. I did a video. So one of my colleagues interviewed me out the front of council chambers, and he asked me, what is my impact? Why is it that I want to go there? What is my passion? And I guess probably the same to everyone else. When you're really passionate about these sort of things, it's just like, how do I get there? How do I make it happen? How can I make bigger impact? And I kind of talked about my projects I've worked on, public realm projects all over the place, and then also my more specific ones now, which are little local playgrounds where they're the people that are walking to them and using them at the end of the street. So I kind of would highly recommend the video. It took about 4 or 5 versions of doing, but the interview process and getting a colleague to ask you the questions and sort of talking about your story was a really great one. Much like everyone else, I'd probably say the best thing about doing the studies is the diversity in the classes, and also the diversity in the lecturers that have come to Swinburne to give us like their insights. I just can't believe how many amazing people are connected to the Centre for Social Impact. I think it's a phenomenal course and highly recommend it for anyone that's out there. So yeah, anyone that's a landscape architect that might be interested, feel free to hit me up. I'm always doing place stuff and always doing things. So yeah.
That's fantastic, Alice. Thanks for the hot tips. And I think it is really interesting to see. I think people would think, oh, landscape architect would, it's not a not-for-profit role in sort of some traditional sense, but actually it's exactly what you're talking about, is the human-centered aspect of what you're doing and how important it is to have that at the forefront. So thank you so much for sharing. And in terms of that question around how you submit your application, I know Swinburne does accept videos. You might just want to reach out, and we can put the emails in the chat to, if you know which university you want to apply to, just reach out to the coordinator to say, hey, are you okay with me submitting a video? And depending on the circumstances, that'll be considered. So I love that. And I love the unconventional aspect of it. So that's absolutely fabulous. So we're actually now going to open up the questions to the audience. We have a number of questions coming through the chat. And one question that is probably a good one for the broader panel is about what sort of social impact work the CSI qualification allows you to kind of continue on to. So obviously we've heard a little bit about that from our panelists, but given a number of you have actually had interactions with alumni and know about what other career paths your alumni colleagues have taken, would be really interested in what answer you might have to this question of what sort of social impact work the qualification allows you to do or would allow you to expect. I might just throw to you, Aidan, because I know you graduated some time ago and have a good alumni cohort. How would you think about this question?
Yeah, so I mean, in general, the first thing I'd say is it's a great value add if you've got some kind of lived or professional experience. I think it's always an amplifier. It should always build on kind of what you're already doing and caring about. Very broadly, I mean, people go into not-for-profit management, they go into specialist roles. It's becoming more common to have social impact roles in for-profit institutions. Just coming to mind because she was on LinkedIn earlier, like one of my co-students is now the social impact person at Canva, which is a pretty cool gig. But it's flexible. I do think you need to bring something to it and you need to be proactive with it as well. It's not as if, I mean, of course you can go and type social impact into seek.com.au and start applying for things, but all the better if you're bringing a bit of intent and direction of your own to it. So yeah, that's kind of how I approach it.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And can I throw to you on the same question, Kimberly?
Sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button. Yeah, no, for sure. So I'm still currently studying the graduate certificate in social impact. And so I work for a law firm, and I also am a director and work for First Nations Response, which is a food relief service for the First Nations community in the city of Sydney. And essentially, so far, what I have been able to get out of it is really hard to demonstrate impact when you're so focused on doing the work. And I think for a lot of funding bodies, etc., we need to learn how to articulate that story to be able to get the funding to continue the important work that we do. So for instance, at First Nations Response, being able to do some of the subjects such as demonstrating social impact, I've actually been able to pull those frameworks and create our theories of change and look at why logic models are actually so important when you're looking at that long strategic kind of outset of what you're doing as a First Nation, or not just a First Nation, sorry, as a charity or organisation. So I found that's really helpful, being able to put into context what I'm also learning. So being able to learn it and then put it into real life circumstances has been so invaluable. And I feel like it comes second nature when I am learning that as well. So I'm learning both ways, two-way learning essentially. So it's that's been one of my highlights that I've absolutely loved and been able to take out of it.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And Deanna?
Hi. Yeah, I think for me, like in not speaking to specific roles, but when I was studying this, I was working in the arts and culture sector, which I had been my whole career. And I think now I've moved over to health research, which is a massive sort of jump because I'm building my networks now, which is great. But I think, again, back to the systems thinking, it's really, I've been able to confidently move into this new space, but still with you know, even though I don't have any sort of technical background in terms of health research or learning about the health sector, I think understanding systems, you know, from the micro to the macro, and I can definitely have been able to identify and navigate similar challenges and opportunities that exist both across those sectors, because I think because I do bring that lens, I'm really interested in being able to work across various sort of disciplines and bring in sort of understand how to bring impact while leveraging sort of infrastructure and resources, especially for areas that are currently underfunded and have those sort of issues. Like it's a very big task, but being able to move over to health research, I think, has been something that I probably wouldn't have done. I don't think so. I probably would have stayed within my area, which was I still have a very fond connection to and still work quite closely to regarding some governance roles. And I'm able to also, you know, in those governance roles, be able to sort of lead with more of that strategic lens as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant and such a good point. Alice as well, if you have a take on this one.
Yeah, kind of, I suppose. Mine's probably a little bit different. I guess probably the part of it is who's in the room. I think the exciting part, I remember our first class with Susan, we went around the room and talked about all of the great impact we were doing. And for me, because of being a landscape architect, I'm not really in the not-for-profit space. So I found that I was spending a lot of time talking about the Venny work and the board of director, sort of the voluntary space and what I do in there. And I guess the thing that I learned is I'm already a leader in this space. I'm already thinking about the social impacts in so many spaces, and it just like amplified it after talking to, you know, people in the class and just going, oh my God, there are so many opportunities out there. Like you just never know what stories are out there and how are you going to get there. I remember there was one guy that came in and gave us a presentation on helping the environment through social impact. And I was just like, wow, my mind has just been blown from doing the course. Like I highly recommend it. It's yeah, definitely worth it. So yeah, I'd say it's the networks and the leadership and opportunities that can come out of there.
Fabulous. Thanks, Alice. And so, yeah, I mean, as you hear, there's such a variety of paths you can go down. And actually, you know, we do see a real range of students coming into our courses and then leaving, going into government roles, going into corporate roles, going into not-for-profits, starting their own social enterprises. It's a long list of activity. And I think the real core is their purpose-driven roles. So I think it really does prepare you for the gamut of purpose-driven roles that are out in the world right now. And it's interesting, you know, when we started this all 15 years ago, there was no such thing as a social impact professional. And now that is a really core role in a lot of corporates. You certainly see that title, you know, social impact lead, whatever it might be, across a range of organizations. So that's really what you'd be expected to be able to do is, you know, sort of start a really a purpose-driven career off the back of a grad cert or continue one, and certainly an MBA. There is a specific question here, which pertains, I may have gotten it, but pertains to UWA. So Professor Paul Flatow leads our UWA team, may be able to address that question, Paul, which I, of course, have somehow just, there's so many wonderful things coming in that I've somehow scrolled past it. I don't know if you can see it. That is unhelpful of me. Apologies. Oh my gosh, I seem to have lost it.
I can read it out if you like.
Go for it. Love it. Thank you.
Anna is just asking, does the grad cert course cover SROI frameworks and financial literacy around impact investments / return on impact investments? I know it did in 2014, Paul, but you can probably clarify for 2026.
Legend. Thanks, Aidan.
Yeah, so I can't speak for the other nodes, but yeah, we do cover SROI in the Demonstrating Social Impact unit, along with more general economic analysis, cost-benefit analysis, and the like, and talk about different techniques, cost offsets, and so on. So there is a discussion there. And we also, the financial investment side, I mean, the course Philanthropy and Social Finance, or whatever it's called in different places, does look at the whole world of impact investment in quite some detail. So you pick that up there as well. But I don't know exactly what is done in all the other nodes in terms of SROI. But that's part of our 2-day impact evaluation, economic evaluation, process evaluation set, and social impact assessment. So we have 2 days on all of that in the demonstrating social impact unit.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Paul. Another question that has come up in the chat pertains to academic requirements. So I think there's just a general question about what sort of academic requirements would you be expecting in terms of entry for the courses? So what kind of academic background? And really the answer actually depends on the course and university. So I'd actually encourage you to visit the course page, which our team will pop into the chat right now, and that'll give you a bit of a sense of what each university is going to require. I think it really depends on each of the universities. Will have a bit of a sense of what's required. And of course, they're all located in different locations and have different entry requirements across a range of their programs in general. So there's another question here, which is, it's amazing, a comment, it's amazing to see a lot of young people interested in the scholarship and having received it in the past. Just wondering what chances a more senior applicant would have. This is somebody who's saying they are 60 years of age, and have they ever been awarded to older applicants? I actually would love to throw to some of our team across the universities to answer this question. So perhaps I might start with you, Susan Pizzati, who's our course director at CSI Swinburne.
Thanks, Samine. Yeah, very happy to answer that question, and delighted to say, yes, we absolutely have had a number of people from all different age groups undertake the course, but also be successful in applying for the scholarship. So as Amine mentioned earlier, it really does come down to your application and being able to articulate what it is that you'd like to get out of the study experience with us. We assess all applications on their merit and age and stage at any point, whether you're starting out or whether you're much more experienced in your career, does not preclude you from applying, nor does it give you a disadvantage in terms of your ability to be successful. So yeah, I'd encourage anybody who's interested and really wants to make a difference in the world to put in an application for sure.
That is fabulous, Susan, and I think would be a very similar answer across our universities. And we actually have some wonderful student stories that we put on our website, and we can link to those. And absolutely, age is not a factor in our consideration. And you, of course, can consider. We would love to have, and often do have, really a variety of experience levels and ages across our courses. So there's another question here, which is, I reside on the beautiful Sunshine Coast, fabulous, and I'm wondering whether real engagement with the course material and network building is best achieved through on-campus study, or will online study be suitable? Again, another really good question, and I think I'll give probably a general response to this, but again, we'll throw to our teams that have offer really both face-to-face and online in order to answer this question. But I would say, while of course there's such a rich experience with being in the classroom and having all the side conversations, and it is in some ways a really fantastic way to study, we're increasingly seeing a lot of students study online across a lot of the programs at our universities, beyond even CSI's programs, and they're getting better and better at trying to foster connections. So I might just throw to some of our education leaders again to give their perspective on this point. So Vanessa at UNSW, I might just throw to you. This is Vanessa Schild, who's our scholarships lead at CSI UNSW.
Thanks very much, Amine, and thanks for your question. So yeah, we at UNSW, we offer both online and in-person study. With our in-person study, we give the opportunity for students to attend weekend intensives, which means that students from interstate can actually join us in Sydney, because it will be two intensive weekends throughout the term. So it does give students that option, which is great. A lot of students get benefit out of studying in person because of the connections that they can make and obviously the networking that they can do, in the in-person environment. But in saying that, it's a very individual experience, and online is also very beneficial to a lot of people as well.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Vanessa. And I might actually ask you as well, Sandra, on this question of how do you build, do you build community in both contexts, and what do we do to support students if they're learning online to build community as well?
Yeah, great question. I think the way that at Flinders we run the classes are very they're designed to make you part of the classroom, regardless of whether you are online or in person. And that goes for the activities that we do, but also just how the whole thing is set up. So past students who've joined online have shared with me that it's they're really felt like part of the cohort moving through the grad cert at the time. I think that connecting through those tutorials and online discussions for the coursework is a way that people start to build a sense of connection. And then they connect via LinkedIn. We at Flinders have an alumni page and current student page. People connect via there as well. And I've also started, at request of students, some in Queensland actually, who are looking for people to go and chat with, who are based in Queensland, in Brisbane. I have two past students based in Brisbane, and they connect and have a chat. So just as much as they can, thread those connections together.
That's brilliant, Sandra. Thank you so much. And I might actually just ask Kimberly just to give a student perspective, given you've been very helpful in responding online as well, in the chat rather.
Yeah, just echoing kind of what Sandra said. Most of the units require you to do weekly posts, and you're forever interacting with each other that way as well. And again, LinkedIn is the new kind of social kind of landing for professionals now, so you definitely build a great network through that way. Most of the people that I've met through the units that I've completed, we've all connected on LinkedIn, and you often bump into them at conferences and other places and stuff as well. So I don't think it's a barrier at all. You definitely still build on those networks.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much for that student perspective. And again, I think there's a number of questions that were actually answered directly in the chat. And if we haven't been able to get to any of your questions, we'll absolutely do our best through our frequently asked questions that we will circulate at the end. I just want to take the time to thank our fantastic guest speakers, our student scholars, our alumni for such an insightful discussion and for sharing so generously of your experiences. And to all of you for joining us and contributing your ideas and your questions in the chat. Thank you so much. And a recording of today's webinar will be sent to you shortly. And we really encourage you to share it with anyone that you think might be interested in studying social impact. Feel free to share it, of course, on your social media as well. And again, as mentioned, if we didn't get to your question, keep an eye out for a follow-up email from the Center for Social Impact, where we'll endeavor to answer any outstanding FAQs. A reminder that CSI scholarships are now open. Once again, please note that different universities actually have different closing dates, and we don't want you to miss out. For example, the application closing date for CSI UWA is in mid-December, which is right around the corner. And again, it takes about 30 minutes to fill out the scholarship application, so really encourage you to do so. If you'd like to stay connected with the Center for Social Impact, we encourage you to subscribe to our CSI monthly national newsletter. You can click on the link in the chat to subscribe or scan the QR code on the screen. It's definitely the best way to stay up to date on scholarship opportunities, upcoming webinars, professional development programs, and the latest research in social impact across our 4 CSI universities. We'll also be sharing reminders about scholarship closing dates in the newsletter, so it's a really handy way to make sure you don't miss any key deadlines for future scholarship opportunities. On behalf of the Center for Social Impact and our 4 teams around the country, thank you for your time and your commitment to creating positive change just by being here. I know that that's why you're interested in CSI, because you're purpose-driven. So thank you so much for your contributions, and we absolutely look forward to connecting with you guys all again very soon. Thanks all. Bye.